right, Money in the Bank time. This is the traditional match where you have to grab the briefcase to get a future title shot. Too many people in this match.
So many people in this match. But when it started, I was like, oh, good lineup. Is this for CM Punk's first match for me?
I think it may be, yes.
I think it is, yeah.
This
He looks like a he looks like a BJ. Where did that go from? He looks like a pound stretcher B-Jams version of Mike Patton from Faith No More.
I don't see any problem in having the T-shirt CM Punk is a BJ. Oddly, this period, I remember watching wrestling at this period and sort of going, oh, it's really stale. You know, they're all the same old people. And actually, when you look at this lineup, it's funny, I think, as well, this WrestleMania, it is one that is undervalued. And it's just because I think at the time, wrestling was sort of boring. It was a bit in a doldrum, and it was just not very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's only when you see it totally out of context that you go, it's not like you sort of go, oh, they filled that with a load of fucking jobbers.
Yeah.
You know, it's Jeff Hardy versus CM Punk versus King Booker versus Finlay versus Matt Hardy versus Randy Orton versus Edge versus Mr. Kennedy. Now, when I think
Queen Charmel's in there.
Queen Charmel, yeah.
Queen Charmel.
When I think of 2007 WWE, I think of Mr. Kennedy because he seemed to sum up these people who were sort of there and you were like, oh, God, you know, yeah, he's good on the mic, he's fine in the ring, but I don't care.
But I just thought, fit Finlay and Mr. Kennedy, get rid of one of them. They look identical for me.
Yes, yeah.
One's a bit heavier than the other.
Liz was saying,
that's about it.
When you said to me, do you remember Mr. Kennedy? She said, I pictured Finlay. I knew I was picturing Finlay, but I couldn't work out who Mr. Kennedy was.
Yeah.
It's only when you see the two of them together, you go, shit, they do look much too similar because it's just, this is a mess. Don't put them in the same bit together. Booker is doing his King of the Ring gimmick. You know, he'd won the King of the Ring tournament and he was really good in this role. At the time, watching it, I hated it, thought it was stupid and boring. Watching him now come out with his attempt at a British accent where he would sort of go, King Booker. I mean, it was...
Baddies, do you realize in a mere 48 hours, I, King Booker, king and ruler of the SmackDown world, the champion of champions, would be defending my championship against Batista.
Just like avant-garde theatre.
Like a yardie. It's like a Jamaican yardie.
And you get CM Punk coming out, and CM Punk is as over as anyone at this WrestleMania.
Right, yeah.
The number of signs for Punk, you know, Punk is God, I just came to see CM Punk, all this. They go mad for him. He's a fresh talent. And the WWE, especially like Vince McMahon, he hadn't engineered Punk getting over with the crowd. Punk just did it by having sort of good passion. He looked like a A-list wrestler. It's just something about the way he moved and people got behind him. But because they hadn't specifically wanted people at that time to immediately get behind this guy, they always slightly sort of stifled him. They were annoyed by the fact that he was popular.
This happens again and again, though, doesn't it?
Again, they've signed him. He's got a contract.
Yeah.
They're using him. Don't be annoyed that one of your employees is doing a better job than you thought he would do. Don't punish him for doing that.
And he looks quite heavy, doesn't he? He's big at this point.
He does. And he looks, oddly, again, you know, this is one of those things that you take for granted when you've watched it from this period. It's only when you see him at this sort of period that you go, gosh, he looks incredibly different to how he would ultimately become. I think there is an attempt that he was going, well, I have to stick out by, you know, and I'm a bit emo. Because I'm straight edge. Yeah. I'm like, black flag. And so he's got the dyed black hair and the little sort of, you know, lip
Tim Armstrong from Rancid.
There is such a good thing to be written about the connection between, like, you know, metal and wrestlers. And there's a weird thing where most of the wrestlers who are really into metal, I can take or leave. Well, I mean, the odd sort of one here is Finlay, who is a guy who they'd brought in really to train the female athletes, the divas, to basically to put matches together in an attempt to make sure these models could go out there and have something resembling a wrestling match. He turned out to be a fantastically brilliant teacher. And he really sort of was slightly responsible for totally rejuvenating the women's division, Finlay. A lot of the big names who would later come through just give nothing but credit to him. What had happened is they were so low on talent at this point, really, that Finlay, who was, I think, in his 50s pretty much when this match is going on, he ended up becoming a semi-main eventer. And they were just like, do you want to go out there and do something? And before they knew it, you know, he's got hornswoggle and he's suddenly become this sort of like great character where he's just really aggressive, super aggressive, and he's also got a leprechaun.
Oh, so it's Hornswoggle, I was going to say belonging to him. Is Hornswoggle his friend? Because doesn't he transfer the guy with the ginger hair later on?
Well, Hornswoggle, the original use of Hornswoggle was as Finlay's sidekick, and there was always a sense of he was Finlay's son, and they had a connection in that way. Later on, of course, in the continuity of WWE, it would be revealed that Hornswoggle was Vince McMahon's son.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, it's the obvious thing. But the Hornswoggle, once they sort of, I think Finlay his career was winding down.
Yeah.
They thought there was mileage still in Hornswoggle. They were just moving him around, and they just didn't really know what to do with him. He still is an active performer. He still goes out there. I think it wasn't that long ago he had a match with Nick Gage, which I have a thing about Nick Gage now, which I think is that you secretly would like to see a lot more Nick Gage matches.
Yes, I would. Yeah,
yes. And you now find out there's one with Hornswoggle.
Yes.
So, and I've seen a bit of that, and let me tell you.
Does he throw him through a wall?
He doesn't hold back.
So you throw him into a ceiling fan?
I say this about Nick Gage, he does not hold back.
No.
Edge comes out and you can see within like the 10 seconds of his introduction, just he is this
He's bought a new
biggest star.
jacket.
He has.
Bought a new steampunky kind
with
of
the
jacket.
money he's made from his big feud with Matt Hardy. But he is really, really over. There's a little bit I really like where Booker brings out a tiny little step ladder.
That's funny. That was my favourite bit.
It's really good.
He goes, oh!
Yeah.
Oh, this fucking thing tomorrow.
But it's also really squat and dense, so you get hit with it. It's not going to be like a ladder where it's sort of like, well, it'll bend at the top.
Yeah.
You know, this is just like, ow, that was literally like being hit by a fucking brick. That's terrible. But this is a sort of good one because there are lots of little bits where there are some sort of big high spots through the ladders and off the ladders, but what it isn't is like the previous ones we've seen where people are just going left, right, centre, a car crash in midair.
Yeah, Jeff Hardy on Edge was horrible, but that was that's the most horrible thing.
If you're Jeff Hardy, you must have that thing of, you know, when they say, so we're going to have you in the Money in the Bank thing, you know, you're not going to win, but you're going to be spectacular. You're just like, they're basically saying, and this is the bit where you do the thing that's really dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, where that's what we've got you here for.
Yeah.
All right. You know, let's cut to the chase. We want you to dive through the floor with your face, you know, every single year. I sort of felt for him there. And then you've got Mr. Kennedy. He was one of those guys who he was at a very high level. I mean, the very fact that he wins this match, this Money in the Bank, I believe, I can't remember if he cashed in. I can't remember if he became a world champion.
Imagine doing that and then not cashing in.
His entire career, though, he was pushed really, really hard. And I don't think it left an impression on anybody who watched it. Yeah. He was there, I think, in WWE for 4 years. He's actually exactly my age, and yet his run seems like a million years ago.
I can't believe he's so young there. Well,
I mean, is. Yeah, I mean, he's like 30, 29, and yet
not looked to 39.
One of those guys they've never brought back. He's never really. He went to TNA after his WWE run. He got fired from WWE. He says because Randy Orton went to Vince McMahon and said, "I had a match with Mr. Kennedy." And he did a back body drop, and it was very dangerous, and it could have injured me, and then my career would be over, and I'm quite a big star. And apparently Randy Orton then went to John Cena and said, John, I think you should back me up on this. And John Cena said, yes, I think he's also a sloppy worker. And so Vince McMahon fired him.
Right.
So he felt that they'd bullied him and they'd kicked him out. He was later released from TNA for testing positive for some drugs. And he mentioned that he'd taken steroids all through his career, apart from the period where he was in WWE. He said that was the one time he didn't. He had Eddie Guerrero's last match before Guerrero's death. That's probably one of the things he's best known for.
Guerrero's got that big grin on his face. And Kennedy's about to eat the...
Eddie realizing the referee's coming to here.
What the hell?
Eddie has tossed the evidence to Kennedy. This is classic Eddie.
Oh, my God.
Kennedy caught red-handed!
Oh my God!
Kennedy caught red-handed!
God, you gotta be kidding me.
The winner of this match as a result of a disqualification, Eddie Guerrero!
That is vintage Eddie Guerrero! Lying and cheating and stealing! Eddie!
He was in the WWE-produced film Behind Enemy Lines Columbia, which I think is Behind Enemy Lines 2.
Right.
He played Master Chief Petty Officer Carter Holt. I mean, it really is like a generate-your-own American action script. He was originally, his real name is Ken Anderson, and he was down in the developmental territory quite early on in his career, and Paul Heyman spotted him. And he had basically gone to Vince McMahon and said, this guy shows a lot of the similarities on the mic and in the ring as Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. And they really, really rated his mic ability.
Yeah.
No, seriously, man, you killed me. Well, last week. Hey, let's go back to last week. A-hole! You're an a-hole! I got kids. 27,000 years in this business.
He didn't really have a gimmick. He just had a thing where a microphone came down and he'd introduce himself and go, Kennedy! There'd be a pause and he'd go, Kennedy! And that was it. That was his gimmick. He was sort of obnoxious and strange. He was called Kennedy because he was originally, when they first brought him in, he was called Mr. Anderson, which is his real name. And then they were like, oh, well, we've got the famous Arn Anderson and Ole Anderson. So they said, we'll change his name to Mr. Kennedy. So he became Ken Kennedy. And Kennedy was chosen by Paul Heyman because it was Vince McMahon's middle name. So that was a sort of weird thing where the boss is giving his name to someone and then they sort of protect him in a weird way, almost because it's like, well, it's my name and I'm the boss. It's just madness. Yeah. It's just madness.
I liked it when he jumped off the ladder with hornswoggle and flipped.
Well, do you know what? I did watch that bit.
That was very dangerous.
It really was. He puts some hornswoggle when they're up the ladder in a sort of fireman's carry, and then he does a somersault. And now Randy Orton said, oh, he's sloppy and he's a bit reckless. And watching that bit, I was like, fuck me, is he? Jesus Christ, he just dives onto the floor and squishes the fuck out of Hornswoggle.
Yeah.
There's no sense of I'm going to protect Hornswoggle at my own expense. He's just like, I'm going to dive off this and this little guy is going to break every moment of my fall.
Oh,
so I did watch that and I did think, oh, that was a bit shitty. You big shit. In June 2014, he and the comedian David Vox Mullen started the Push the Button podcast. It covers topics such as religion, sex, and politics. That sounds absolutely fucking awful.
Sounds brilliant.
Yeah. If you can't at least give me an argument as to why you're right, we can disagree. That's fine, ultimately. But to not even have to just say, I don't know, throw up your hands and walk away, well, then don't come talk to me and don't push your stuff on me.
Yeah. Kennedy wins this one. It's a really sort of flat ending. He sort of gets up. It takes him a bit too long to get the briefcase. And I think everyone's like, oh, well, something's going to happen to stop him winning.
Yeah, no, he's just having real trouble getting it off the hook, isn't he? Has anyone, because I think it's Edge that goes up in the first 5 seconds of the match. Yeah. And he's almost got his hands on it.
Yeah.
Has anyone in one of those ladder matches ever just got it in the first 5 seconds? That would really make me laugh.
They really should do that. They should do it because what it says is it just sort of
could
goes,
go at any moment.
Anything can happen.
Yeah. Because we know we're just watching men over 40 being unable and somehow forgetting how to climb a ladder.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is all the time.
I've always said they should just do a thing where if they don't announce what the time limits are, why is it all wrestling matches, like, if they're main events, they're 21 minutes.
Yes.
And if they're not main events, then they're between 7 and 11. Why don't they just go once? Just go, Khali versus Kane is going to go for an hour and 20. Right? And then people will begin to sort of go, right.
What's happening?
Don't know. Didn't expect that. That'd be,
Khali wouldn't.
No. I mean, both of them will be dead by the end of it. Kennedy does a really good promo afterwards, which I was sort of like, I was really watching it just going, can't believe they let that guy win. I mean, 2007 so rubbish and stuck in the doldrums. Then he came out and did a promo and I was like, shit, this guy's really good. I was really surprised by how good it was.
First of all, congratulations.
Blah, 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 blah. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate myself for winning Money in the Bank. Because I understand that nice guys, they always finish last. Dead last. So thank God I'm not a nice guy.
They also have a little clip from The Condemned, which was their WWE film with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Enjoyable bit of promotional material.
Wasn't it? There was a line in there, and when it came on again, I liked Mr. Kennedy. I was like, oh, God, Jesus Christ, who wants to watch this? It's like some awful bloody rip-off of a Battle Royale, Jesus, or, one of those other films like Battle Royale. And I literally tried to think of one, I couldn't.
Isn't that Battle Royale is the same as Hunger Games?
Yeah. That's it. It comes out and they just like, here's an exclusive little clip, and it properly made me laugh. And the line was just, "Where you from?" Goes, Alaska. Whereabouts? A little town called Fuck Your Mother. It's so witless and good.
Every time Stone Cold would say something funny, the fans would cheer.
Where are you from?
Alaska.
Whereabouts?
Little fishing town called your mama.
Little fishing town called Fuck Your Mum.
I really want to watch that film now. I really do.